A Detroit woman who was falsely arrested for a crime she did not commit is suing the city for using faulty technology that led to that arrest. So now 32-year-old Portia Woodruff was taken into police custody back in February for alleged robbery and carjacking. So now she was, implicated in this crime despite being 8 months pregnant. I guess it's kind of hard to do, but really the logistics of it, that's not why or how they found out that she was actually not the person that robbed the victim here. No, but the pregnancy does have a lot to do with it. But now, according to court documents, first, Woodruff was implicated as a suspect after a photo lineup was shown to the robbery and carjacking victim. Now, her photo, the photo that they chose, was used after police used facial recognition technology to basically create their lineup, and it turns out that that facial recognition technology kind of racist. Now, the victim told Detective LaShantia Oliver that on the day of the robbery, he had met with another woman at a liquor store where they had sexual relations with each other before going to a nearby gas station. So now it turns out that that woman that they had, this man had relations with, set him up for a robbery and carjacking. So now after they left the gas station, they drove to an area where the victim was robbed and carjacked at gunpoint, by a man who had interacted with a woman that he had sex with at the gas station. And of course, later on, they caught him on February 2nd. The man was arrested while driving the victim's vehicle. So we're not talking about the smartest people here. Okay. Now, that said, the woman that helped rob this man and carjack him, well, there's a very important piece of context here that seems to have been missing in this investigation. The fact that that woman was not 8 months pregnant. Something that apparently you cannot find out through a facial recognition software. Okay. So now, according to the lawsuit, the victim was shown a lineup of 6 women and allegedly identified Woodruff as the woman he was with time of the carjacking. So now here's the thing, right? So I'm not going to blame the victim here in this, because look, you have to understand that when you're in a stressful situation, you're not going to remember details, right? But yeah, if you ask people that have been robbed at gunpoint, if they remember the person's face or a lot of these details, they're going to get a lot of that wrong. Okay, so I'm not saying wrong 100% of the time, but certainly they're going to get some details wrong. Okay, and that's what happened here. Obviously, he picked out someone that, had a resemblance, but wasn't the same person. Now, the detective had failed to get other physical descriptions here, including the fact that Woodruff was, at the time of the alleged robbery, 8 months pregnant, which obviously the person that he had had intimate relations with was not. She had, the investigator, the detective, had never asked if the victim, asked the victim if the woman he was with was pregnant. Now, Woodruff ended up being arrested and taken to the Detroit Detention Center on February 16th. During an interview with Oliver, Woodruff learned that the victim never said the woman he was with was pregnant. But again, they left out some very, very important detective work here. Again, that's something that would stand out, that's a very important piece of information that was left out in favor of favoring this facial recognition technology. Well, it's the face, it's close enough, and the victim identified it. Case closed, we're not going to learn any more details. Oops, we just missed something gigantic.
Whoopsie.
Now, Woodruff was arraigned on the carjacking and robbery charges, given a $100,000 personal bond, and told not to leave the state. However, she ended up being released the same day because they didn't have evidence. Now, that said, being as how she was pregnant, her fiance ended up having to take her to the hospital due to stomach tightness, headaches, and whole body pains. Woodruff was told that she had a low heart rate due to dehydration and was having contractions due to stress. So she was released that day from the hospital. And again, anybody who's familiar with some of the stories about, pregnant women ending up in jail. It's a dangerous place. Even when you're not pregnant, jail is a dangerous place for anyone to be in, because I mean, numerous stories of them not getting food or water, dehydrated, getting sick, and not getting any medical attention. In fact, even pregnant women, especially black women, not getting proper medical attention, and sometimes having, stillbirths. The baby, comes out and not given medical care and dies as a result. And so, yes, this could have been an incredibly tragic situation in that regard. Thankfully, it wasn't, but it was still a terrible situation that never should have happened in the first place. Now, on February 27th, as I mentioned, the Wayne County Prosecutor's Office dismissed her case due to insufficient evidence because she didn't do it. Now, the lawsuit that she filed alleges that the Detroit Police Department failed to implement proper regulations for using this facial recognition technology and to train employees, i.e. police, to use it properly. So a lot of failures here. Again, facial recognition technology, can't tell the difference between black people. As a black person, I can't differentiate. They all kind of look the same. Kind of proves that the machines themselves can be as racist as the humans that program them. Now the ACLU points out, and this is the ACLU of Michigan, says that this is the third allegation of false arrest in Detroit due to facial recognition technology, and the sixth false arrest in the country. Now, that doesn't sound like a lot, and thankfully it isn't, but as this technology gets adopted more and more places, then that number is going to go way up. And that's not a good thing. That's a disaster. Now, all 6 people, according to the ACLU, have been black, so this disproportionately affects African Americans, and Ms. Woodruff is the first person to report it happening to her. Or, I'm sorry, the first woman to report it happening to her. As a result, the ACLU is calling on the Detroit Police Department to stop using this faulty facial recognition technology. Now, Phil Mayer, senior staff attorney at the ACLU of Michigan, had this quote: "As Ms. Woodruff's horrifying experience illustrates, the department's use of this technology must end. Furthermore, the DPD continues to hide its abuses of this technology, forcing people whose rights have been violated to expose its wrongdoing case by case. DPD should not be permitted to avoid transparency and hide its own misconduct from public view. At the same time, it continues to subject Detroiters to dragnet surveillance." And I don't really think I could put it any better than that. I'm just going to add that stories like this should be a wake-up call to people that this technology should not be used. And not just to people, but to lawmakers as well. This technology should not be used. It's not ready. It's not reliable. And it leads to disastrous mistakes like this. And also leads police officers to be lax in their own duties in favor of, just let the computer handle it. No, let's not. Because again, the computer is only as smart as the people that program it. And as we've seen with, for example, racist AI chatbots, I mean, they will carry the same kind of biases that humans have. And so that is the danger of this technology, and we should not be using it.